Welcome back to another episode of Clash of Cultures. As we continue along with our college football preview series, we're going to be taking a stop in Corvallis, Oregon, and looking at the Beavers. As always, if you guys are returning viewers, please do us a favor, hit the like button, comment down below what you think of our takes, our opinions, what teams you guys want to see. But most of all, hit that subscribe button. As we record right now, we're at 480 subscribers. We're trying to get to that 500 mark and hit another milestone. So if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys do that for us. Thank you again for the love and support, everybody who's been showing to the channel. But without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about Oregon State and the Beavers. Dad, what do you see as their outlook for the season, and what do you see as their kind of potential?
Yeah, so I like them as a team. I think if you look at the Pac-12, and we talked about this in earlier Pac-12 takes, this is going to be one of the best conferences this upcoming season. And Oregon State is right there on the edge. This is a team that I would not be surprised if they competed for the Pac-12 title, although I do have them behind Utah, Oregon, USC, again, Washington as well. Again, I would not be surprised if, because I have all of those teams very close, I wouldn't be surprised if Oregon State is, one, able to beat some of those teams, and two, able to compete in that Pac-12 championship. You got to start with DJ. DJ coming over from Clemson. I think if we go back 4 years ago to his freshman season, a top quarterback recruit, may have been the top quarterback recruit in his class, goes to Clemson.
I think he was number 2 behind Bryce Young, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Obviously replaces Trevor Lawrence, gets in, has a what looks like, if you guys remember, Trevor Lawrence got hurt, I believe it was. Hurt. He came in.
He played against Notre Dame, I think.
When he came in, Notre Dame game, looked great. And it just kind of went downhill from there. What you hope is, in a new offense, with a team that is probably going to be a little bit more spread, a little bit more throw the ball, let him do what he does, that this really works out for him. I think they bring back a bunch of talent, especially on offense. Damian Martinez, almost 1,000-yard rusher. Some of the receivers, now they did lose Harrison, their top receiver from last year. Trayshawn Harrison went to the NFL, but they are bringing back Anthony Gould. I don't know if you said Gould. Yeah. So their second receiver from last year. And again, I think they're bringing back a lot of good talent. But I think it's really going to be, if DJ can look like the DJ that we thought he was going to be when he was a 5-star talent, when he played as a freshman at Clemson. Can he be that guy? Big 6'5", powerful guy, 260, something like that. Just a ridiculous build. And if he can be what we thought he was going to be at Clemson, especially after playing his freshman year, this may be a very special season for Oregon State. What's your thoughts?
So now I know a lot of these videos, a lot of the fan bases will come in here and kind of tell us what we don't know and how we're uneducated and stuff like that. So I just want to say I'm a huge DJU fan. Obviously, I'm a Clemson fan. As you guys can see my background, I support the guy. I mean, obviously it didn't work out at Clemson, but people were advocating for him to be benched and for the upcoming guy who's starting this year, Cade Klubnik, to start. And my dad will vouch for me. I literally said, I do not want Cade to play. I want DJU to keep playing because I believe in him, and I think he's a good quarterback. I just don't think it was a fit at Clemson, and I think that's what it's going to come down to. I'm going to go the other way, though. I don't think they're going to throw the ball a lot while he's there. I think they're going to run the ball a little bit more. They had the fourth ranked rushing offense in the Pac-12 last year, and they bring back, obviously, the freshman player of the year in the conference with who you just said, Martinez. He had a monster season. Yeah. What do you have? Almost 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. Yeah. And then, I mean, you do bring back Anthony Gould. You bring back Tyjon Lindsey. He's from San Diego. Sterling, if you're watching that, I want to say he went to some San Diego school, high school, around the time that I went to high school down there, a little bit after me. But I think they have a lot of talent, but the running game is really going to help DJU. And they kind of came out of nowhere last year. In the history of Oregon State, they only have 3 10-win seasons, and the coach got one last year, and he was the quarterback in 2000, and he got it, which is kind of a weird fact. So he has 2 of their 3 10-win seasons, one as a quarterback and one as a head coach. So I think
Jonathan Smith.
Yeah, so I think the run game is going to be big for them. They bring back 4 of the starting 5 offensive linemen. They had the best defense in the conference based off of total yards given up a game. and they lost two of their corners, but they probably have the best safety duo in the conference, with Alton Julian coming back off a torn ACL in 2021, and then Katan Oladapo. He was the first team All Pac-12 last year. But just to kind of, since we're talking about the roster, let me go ahead and pull up their. Before we get into the roster, we'll pull up this. So they're ranked as the FPI ESPN ranked them number 24 coming to the country, which I think that's pretty fair coming off a 10-4 season, or 11-3 season, actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 10-3.
Yeah, the 10th win was the bowl game.
Okay, yeah, so a 10-3 season, a big win against Oregon in the Civil War.
Yes.
So ESPN has them projected at almost 9-3, just about 9-3, with a 7% chance to win the Pac-12. Again, as we said in the Utah, Oregon, and USC video, the Pac-12 is absolutely loaded. So make sure you guys are tuning into those games, those late night games, because really every game is going to be a shootout. It's going to be a good competitive game. But I think 7% is pretty fair with given how many teams are out there. But moving on to the next screen, as I was talking about who they're bringing back, I think obviously the biggest storyline is bringing in DJ. But I think. And I'm gonna go. I know pretty much everything I said is kind of positive so far. I wouldn't say this is a negative thing, but when I said Oregon, a lot of these fans come in here saying how we don't know anything. When you look at this team's recruiting class, they do not recruit well. So I feel like the window for them to kind of compete for the Pac-12 title is like now or never. And that's just my opinion. The reason why, in this class alone, 2023 class, I didn't look too much into the 2024 class, but you're 10 of 12 in your conference. You don't have any 4 or 5 star recruits, and you only have 2 3-stars. That's not good.
Yeah, no. But the thing about recruiting to me is it's subjective to a point, right?
Yeah.
So some of these 3-stars may really pop, just like some 5-stars may flame out.
Flop, yeah.
So yeah, it's subjective. If they understand what they're looking for, now you got to also remember, for Oregon State, it has to be hard because you're obviously in the same state as Oregon.
Yep.
Oregon's a big name. They got Nike money. They got ridiculous facilities. They got the jerseys. They're on TV every week. So you're going to lose, especially to Oregon, to USC, to some of those more popular teams on the West Coast. And really what you're going to kind of get, and I don't mean this disrespectfully to any recruit, but what you're going to kind of get is some of their leftovers. And you got to kind of figure out how to make those leftovers a competitive team.
And I will say this. I know I said that like it's win now, but I think, last year they beat Oregon in the Civil War. I think if DJ shows up, and I don't even think he has to be a Heisman candidate. I know I was clamoring for him to get in the Heisman conversation last year. I don't think he really needs that at Oregon State. I think if you look at Oregon State, DJ might be the most talented top to bottom quarterback they've ever had. And now I'm not saying as far as production, I mean top to bottom talent, your intangibles. I think Sean Mannion is probably listed as their best quarterback ever, but I would say DJ is a better prospect than him. So I think if he just goes in and plays above average football, even as a game manager. I know I said that as far as Tessa Bennett, and they wanted to put my head on a spike. But when I say like game manager, he doesn't need to make the wow plays. He doesn't need to do anything crazy. And I think they could still compete for the Pac-12 title. I don't have them winning it, but they beat Oregon last year. So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
And I think this goes to your point in 2 ways. One, they were able to go 10-3 with their starting quarterback throwing for under 1,500 yards. Now they did have another quarterback throw for about 1,000, but you're talking about 2,500 yards passing as a 3. And I'm not going to pretend for all the Oregon State fans. I'm not going to pretend like I watched a bunch of Oregon State football, but I think DJ is much better than, I don't even know how you say his name, Galbranson. The quarterback that started last year that's going to back him up this year. I think he's a much better talent than him. So if you are able to get about 3,000 yards from DJ, you bring back, as you can see here, Damian Martinez and Deshaun Fenwick. You bring back a lot of the rushing yards from last year. You possibly are looking at a better offense than you had last year. And with that, then it's a matter of what's the ceiling.
So now I will say this. I think the offense is going to be far better than it was last year. You bring in a better quarterback. You bring in your 2 leading rushers. You bring back your receivers. And then, I mean, at the same time, you did lose a lot of stuff on defense. But I think even with what you brought in on the defensive side of the ball, and then you still brought back all four out of five of your offensive linemen, I don't think you can go backwards on offense unless DJ really just isn't what people thought he was, and he has a bad final season here at Oregon State. Then that's really the only way I see it. But I don't think that's going to happen. I just think he needed a fresh start, like I said. They lost Omar Speight to the transfer portal. He went to LSU. He was a beast. So that's going to be a big hit for them. But then you brought in the edge rusher out of Wyoming. I don't want to butcher his name, but you brought him over from Wyoming. He should be good. I believe he had 6.5 sacks last year with Wyoming. So I mean, I think this team's going to be good. Like I said, the only downfall I see them is in the win now kind of aspect. I think if they have another good season, another 10-win season, even if they're 9-4 after the bowl game, I think more recruits start going there. But I mean, if you go 6-6, 6-7, I think it's going to be kind of hard to convince recruits to come here when you have likes of Oregon, Washington, Utah, USC, UCLA. So I think that'll be hard. But moving on to the next slide, we'll kind of talk about the predictions and the projections. I'll let you go first and kind of explain why you chose those.
Yeah, so I got them 9-3. Like I said, I have a ceiling of 11-1 because the only game to me that I think that they just couldn't win is Oregon. I think Oregon is just too much talent and I think Oregon's going to have payback on the mind. Obviously, as we've mentioned a couple of times already, they were able to win the Civil War last year. This game is a game that Oregon has to have circled on the schedule, so I think they're going to want their get back. But I think every other game is winnable. The only other game that was kind of concerning, it's funny that you have them losing it. I went back and forth on that UCLA game, but I think they're going to be able to pull off a win against UCLA. So, yeah, I think this is going to be probably that second tier of teams in the Pac-12 that is going to be good enough to beat some of the top tier teams, but dominate the lower tier teams, the teams like Cal, Arizona, Colorado, Stanford. They should win all of those games pretty handily.
So there were when I kind of went through the rundown of this, as you guys can see, we had the same floor at 7-5. I think the easy 5 games to say would be Oregon, Washington, UCLA, Utah, and maybe Colorado. I'm going to say Colorado, maybe Washington State. That's why I said their floor will be 5 losses because I don't think they'll lose another game. I counted one more after the 4 games that I have them losing.
So I had my 2 other games of concern were UCLA and Washington State.
Okay. So, I mean, I obviously have them going 4-0 just like you. I think the one team I don't think they can beat is Utah. I think it's a matchup problem. They got blown out by like 30 last year when they played them. So I think that's the only game that I looked at and I'm like, yeah, they're not winning that game. Now, would I be surprised? I think I would be surprised if they won that game. But with how, like I said, how the Pac-12 is going to be this year and how many good quarterbacks are there, it's the most quarterback-heavy conference in college football this season, Absolutely. In my opinion. So I think every game is going to be a shootout. I mean, even the Arizona game might be a shootout. The UCLA game, all these games are really going to be shootouts. Yeah. And so, like I said, I think they're going to lose the Utah game. I had them losing to UCLA as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if it went back and forth. But I did choose UCLA in that one. I have them beating Arizona, Colorado, and Stanford. And for the Washington and Oregon game, kind of like with you with the Oregon, I think Oregon's going to have revenge on their mind from last year. And I think Oregon is going to be a really good football team, so that's why I chose them. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if it went back and forth with that one as well. And then I chose Washington because I think Penix is going to be a real deal this year. He's going to be in Heisman talks. They bring back a lot of talent offensively as well. So I think that's going to be a very high-scoring game. So I think that game will be close. But I ultimately chose Washington that game. So I have them going 8-4. My ceiling is 10-2. But I would say this, just to kind of end the video, as I wouldn't even say a hot take. I think they are a legitimate dark horse to win the conference. But when I say that, I think a lot has to go in their favor for them to win the conference. I think they would have to have a lot of teams drop, like kind of just like knocking each other off. Like I think if Oregon State won the conference, the Pac-12 is not getting a team in the playoffs. I think it's going to be more of like a 10-2 type conference championship game.
Yeah, I have them finishing 5th in the conference overall. We talk about the 3 teams here that I have them losing to. They don't play USC this year. I think they're going to be behind USC. Like I said, I have them better than UCLA, but again, that's probably neck and neck. But I have them finishing 5th. But again, I have to continue to beat the drum that 5th in the Pac-12 this year is not middle of the road. this could be a 10. They can finish fifth and be a 10-win team because I think the Pac-12 is going to be that good this year.